Yeah, let me recall. Okay, so welcome back to this lecture. Today we're going to talk about IAM. IAM actually means Identity Access Management, and it's a service in AWS. IAM is not based on it's not a VPC based service, so it does not reside in a VPC. Give you an example of what a VPC looks like, right? Um, oh, yeah. Let's cancel this. Okay, looks like I have I've closed what I would have shown you, but no problem. So if let's say this is a VPC now, right? A VPC means a virtual private cloud where you provision your resources. IAM resides outside that, so that from here you can authenticate and authorize resources that exist inside this place. Even resources that exist outside your VPC, IAM will also authorize and authenticate them. Okay, so let's go on. Now, the first thing we need to find out with IAM is authentication and authorization. What is authentication? What does that mean? Right? So I was trying to tell you that, for example, this is a bank. You get this is a bank, and then in the bank you have various departments in that bank, right? Departments. Let's just imaginary departments in the bank, and then a customer walks into that bank, right? And then he wants to, maybe he has issues with his account, right? He goes to the area where you have customer service, and then you have this area. You have, for example, let me look for something that I will be able to. Let's look for a free. Good, you know. Okay, so let's say this is one section of the bank. This is another section of the bank, and then the bank has uh, another entry, and then this is one section of the bank. You know, this is one section of the bank, and this is one section of the bank. This area is let's see, let's clean that off. Okay, good. That's a strong room, where you have cash. That's this area here. Hmm?
Okay.
So we have the strong room there. And here, you have your manager. Let's say you have your manager, your bank manager. That's a bank manager. Maybe here you have the operations manager. And then this is the banking hall. And then you have customer service. And here you have, let's say, what do we put here now? Let's say you have uh, the cash room, right? So where you pay cash in bulk room. Forgive my sluggish stuff. So this is your bulk room, customer service, your bank manager, your operations manager, your strong room, and this is the whole banking hall. And you now have a customer walk into the bank, right? So this is, and you have a lot of other people coming, not just the customer, bank employees, everybody, they walk into the bank. I want us to take authorization first. So authorization means declaring who you say you are, right? So at the point of entry into this bank, almost everybody has pre-authorization because the security at the gate assumes you have something in the bank. That's why you came. So they allow you. You come into the bank and then you want to, let's add another place here. This is where people who want to withdraw cash. They want to withdraw cash. While this one, they want to pay cash in. And you want to withdraw cash. This man walks straight here and he says he tenders a check, or he just goes there and says, well, I have a bank account here. Oh, yeah, you have a bank account. Okay, fine. I have 1 million naira there. Oh, fine, good. But I want to withdraw 200,000 naira. Okay, fine. Where's your check? I didn't come with my check, but I need the money. Just give it to me because I have an account. Are they going to allow him to take that money without any documentation? No. So though he's authorized, right, to come in, he is not authenticated. You understand? He is not allowed to take the money unless he proves his authorization. That is, he is able to tender a check book that is written, a checkbook where his name is written on, and then he signs, and then they will confirm the signature is the same with what he has tendered and what they have in their system. And that, you understand that? So that's what we call authorization. He is now declared, and they have confirmed that I am who I said that I am. This is the same person who is standing before you, who has that account. I am the one. They confirm the signature, and then it's okay, very good. They confirm the money that he has. Oh, he has 1 million. He wants to take 200, and then they give him. So that's what we call authentication, right? To confirm who you say you are. So AWS has a service that enables people to authenticate, that enables the system to authenticate users, enables to authenticate users, authenticate groups, authenticate roles, right? Sorry, authenticate. I'm sorry, I put authorization. I underlined the authorization. It's not correct. I've been talking about authentication. This is what I've been talking about, right? Authentication. So, sorry? Yeah, so I made a mistake to underline this, but what I've been talking about is authentication. That is saying, identifying yourself and confirming that you are the person that you say you are, and then they confirm their records. So you walk here and you do that. But this same man that has been authenticated here, can he walk into this place and enter here? Even though he's authenticated, lie, he will never. So though you are authenticated to withdraw cash, you are authenticated to enter the bank, you are not authorized to enter the strong room. So that's where authorization comes in. So authorization has to do with permissions to do something, while authentication has to do with permissions to enter, and permissions for access. Authorization has to do with permission for use, right? So the bank manager, all of them, they went in through this way, they were all allowed, authenticated. The bank manager, works here, everybody's, the bank manager, and he goes here, he's authenticated to enter his office, but the same bank manager is authenticated to enter here. Guess what? This guy here may not be authenticated, this staff may not be authenticated to enter here, right? Authorized to enter here, the strong room. But he's authenticated to enter the bank. He's authenticated to stay behind this counter and walk, but he's not authorized to have access to the strong room. So this is all about IAM, right? So I want us to understand this. That's why I brought this whole scenario up. Okay, so now quickly, I want to look at something before we go into this, the AWS service, AWS website. So, well, today we're going to look at users, groups, policies, roles. So that's what we want to look at, right? Users, groups, policies, and roles. So users, let's take a user first. A user is someone who has authentication access to AWS, right, website. So by that, I mean you can log into AWS. And you have various types of users. You have an admin user, you have a root user, and you have other users. So the root user is the one that you will always not want to use. In fact, you will never have that access in your career, except you are the owner of the business, right? And root users have they have absolute authority, absolute authentication, and absolute authorization. Root users. So that's why you don't want to give anybody your root user access, because they can go and do and undo anything. Next, we have groups. Groups are a combination of users put together in one platform. So, for example, if we have, let's say, we have let's say I have two teams. You have our dev team, and our production team, right? This dev team is, they just hired a new staff, and that new user needs to be given permissions and all that so that they can start working, right? What do you need to do as a DevOps, not a DevOps, as a cloud administrator or a cloud engineer? The first thing you do is to create a user, right, for that new person. And when you create a user, right, you now give the user permissions through policies. You attach policies to this user, limiting the user and allowing the user, that is, authenticating the user and authorizing the user on what access they can get and what services they can work on and what not. So, but when you look at it, you say that, okay, what if usually cloud teams you can have like a cloud team of 10, 15 people. So what if 8 people get new jobs and another 8 come? Are you going to be creating, you create, of course, 8 users, right? Are you going to be now attaching policies one by one? It will be cumbersome. You might miss it. That's where groups come in. So with groups, right, you can now create this one that I just did now, this development group. You create a group, and all the policies that have to do with that particular group and all the users that will be in the group, you attach it to the group. So that anybody you create, any user you create, you just dump, if it's a development user, you just dump the person inside here, and he will inherit the permissions that are in this group. Same thing with the production group. You know, for example, you have a new team member that's in the production group. You just dump the person, create it, and dump that person here. And the policies that are inside this group, attached to this group, will be inherited by the new user. So that's the significance, the use of groups, right? And then policies are the actual permissions that you apply to either groups, users, or roles, right? And then you have roles. Roles are permissions roles are kind of, they are not used for users, right? They are used for services. Maybe I want to link an S3 bucket, right? I want to link it to an EC2. Yeah? Then I will need to assign EC2 a role to be able to use the S3 bucket. So mostly we use roles for services to connect services together so that they can have permission to work with one another. All right? So Right here now, to cap everything, we've talked about authentication and authorization. Authentication being your declaration of who you say you are, the real person, and they will ask you certain things. Give me your password, give me your this, give me your that, give me your that. Oh, you provide everything. Yes, this is the real person. That's authentication. So by logging into AWS in the first place, you have passed the authentication test. But you might get there and you might not be able to do anything because you are not authorized. You might not be able to access a S3 bucket. So authorization is a second level of IAM where it gives you permission, right, to use services, and you can even have fine-grained permissions. That is, you can have a situation where you may be able to use EC2, but you may not EC2 instance, create an instance, but you may not be able to delete it, right? You may not be able to edit it. You may not be able to write, but you may just be able to read. That is just to view it. So I've said too much here. Let's go to our console. Okay, so here, this is our EC2 dashboard anyway. So, but I'll go to IAM. Okay, that's IAM there. As you guys work on your personal accounts, you most likely be using your root account because you are the owners. But in a real work environment, don't expect to have your root account. So this is my root account. That's why I'm logged in. And that's why it's flagging me, telling me here, if you look here, it's telling me that I need to add multi-factor authentication, for my root user to improve security. You see? So anything about login access it is an authentication matter. Are you getting it? So we're going to create a user now. We're going to create a user. And the first thing I'm going to do is to go to users. So here, let's close that. I have 3 users here, right? Let's just add a user. We'll give it a name. New user. Let's say dev user, right? So now you want to provide the user access to the AWS Management Console, or you want to give permissions for it's either you want to select, you want to allow the person access or not, right? So I'll select that. Let's just see that. Let's see if you are providing console access to a person. We're going to manage their access in IAM Identity Center, right? So here I selected that, right? So I'm now going to specify a user in Identity Center. That is, we recommend that you use Identity Center to provide console access to a person, where you can centrally manage user access and all that to AWS accounts and cloud applications, right? Let's go next. Okay. So what I will do here, I'll close this one. Let me cancel. Let me not give. And let me hit next. Okay, fine. Going that way will confuse you guys. Let's just do a simple user, right? So you have opportunity to add the person to a group, right? You have the opportunity to copy permissions, right? And add to this new user, and you have the permission opportunity to attach policies directly. Policies give you authorization. They give you that authorization for you to be able to do stuff, right? So so for now, what we'll do is let's attach policy directly. Or let's not even attach any policy safe. Let's just leave it. And let's create. You see, there's no policy now. This person does not have policy. Let's create, let's see, let me just go back before anything just to make sure everything is okay. Let's click here. Okay. Let's go next. All right. So let's create a user. So we have a new user, right? He's not in any group. I'll click the user. You see that he does not have console access, nothing, no access key, nothing, right? Scroll down, let's see, security credentials. This is the only way he can log into the console. Let me copy this. I can use this one straight to get into the console. So what I'll do is I'll come here straight and I'll paste it. Okay, my font size. Okay. Okay, I need to change the name to new dev user. Okay, I'm missing the password. So what I will do is let me go sign as a root user and go and check again. I just want to check. Okay, permissions, no permission, no permission. Okay, fine. I have not, there's no password yet, so I can't log in. Let's see what, let me see here. Let's see this, I just leave. Okay, so for me to have password to log in, right? Let's cancel this first. I have to come here, right, to enable console access, right? And if I hit enable console access, it will ask me for to set a password. For first-time users, it's good to just set an auto-generated password, right? And then also to tick that the user must create a new password at signing, the next signing. So if we hit apply, you see that it generated, that's the URL I used the first time, and that's my name, the new username. But now it's giving me a password, right? I can also download the CSV file, you know, to get that information, but I'll open this. So I'll copy this. This becomes my new password to sign in. So let's come back here and let's enter that. You see, we've signed in, but it's now because I selected, I know it would have left there now, right? I selected that it should force me to sign to get a new password. That's why it's taking me here. So I'll enter the previous password, the old password, and I'll put a new one. Um, confirm password, right? Okay, so maybe I need to put some words and letters and all that. Um, so I'm just doing A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, just to see if that one works. Still does not work. Okay, I'll combine letters and numbers. Let's put the old one there. B, C, D, E, G, H. Right. Okay, put the other one there. Let's try this. Oh, so why is it giving me this? Okay, fine, no problem. I'll go back and check. Okay, so I enabled it. I set my password. Keep existing password, auto-generated password or custom password. User must sign in. Okay, so let me just let's see. Custom password. Okay, let me put a custom password here. All right. For the purpose of us moving, right? I don't want to select this so that maybe it won't give me strange, strange stuff. Let's put capital H and then put a star so that. Okay, so let's apply. So we've updated it now, right? Let's show. So this is our new password. So I'll sign out. I don't want to lose this number. Okay, so what I'll do, let me save it. Let me save the password somewhere else. Okay, so I'll save it there. So I'll copy this link, right? And then I want to sign in with that link. So it will take me straight to where I need to enter my password. Okay, so let's get my password back. New dev user, and I put that password. Yeah, so we're logged in. Okay. Now that we are logged in, we've been authenticated. We have access to the console. But let's check if we are authorized. For example, let's go to S3. Let's see if we are authorized to check some stuff. Wow, this is S3. S3 is a storage service, right? We'll click S3. Let's see. Let's come here. Let me check if there are any buckets. See, you don't have permissions to list buckets. I can't even create buckets in the first place. Are you seeing that? And he's saying after you or your administrator has updated your permissions to allow S3 list all my buckets action, then I have to do it in IAM before I'll be allowed. So I'm authenticated, but I have 0 permissions. I cannot do anything, right? I can't do anything because I've not been given any permission. Let's try EC2. Maybe we can create an instance. Let's see. Or maybe we can view instances. Wow. Are you seeing that? Error, 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 error. Why? Because I have 0 permissions. Though I am authenticated, it confirmed that I am the person, the new dev user, gave me access into the console, but I can't do anything. So let's go back and fix this. Let's look at that. List all my buckets, right? S3. So what we are going to do here is to sign out and sign in as root. Only root can do this, right? You cannot go and give yourself permissions. I will sign in back as root. Great. So sign into console. Okay, I'll click my root, sign in as root. So now that I've signed in as root, I'll go back to my IAM and give that particular user the required permissions so that they can now access whatever their roles requires them to access, right? So all I need to do is to come to users. Okay, so we have the user here. We select the user. We come to add permissions. We can go straight to add, or we can use an inline policy directly to the user. Any one of them will still do. So let's go to add, right? So add policies directly. Let's look for the S3. That's it here, S3 full access. If we click here, we'll be able to see what it says. It shows us the version. This is a JSON style document. It's Java based, right? So we are seeing the version, but we see the statement. The statement is this: allow. That's the effect you want to manifest, is allow. And what do you want to? What's the action? What do you want to happen? Allow S3. Star that you see here means anything in S3, right? And also S3 objects in Lambda. Lambda is another service, right? And the resource that you want to allow S3 is also anything. That is, you are giving S3, you are giving full access to S3, right? This is another topic of its own. So let's add that to that user. And then we hit next. We add the permissions. Great. So if you notice, the only permission we had before was to change password. Now we have added S3 full access to the dev user. All right, great. Let's go and check again. Sign out. Sign in. Sign in as an IAM user. Where do we get this? Let's see. It's supposed to pull the 12 digits out from you. Let's see. Let's just try with this. And I want to pull that. No, it won't go. Okay, so this is what I wanted. Okay, so now I'll change it. New dev user. You see, this account is the account name of this AWS account that we have. It covers everybody. But for the root user, you don't need to show it, right? So we'll put our password. Our password is it here. Who's that? And then we'll paste our password. Then we'll sign in. So we gave access to S3, right? But we didn't give to EC2. But let's just try EC2. Let's see. Maybe the access can help us. This authorization, maybe we might just be able to succeed somehow. Are you saying that we don't have access? But let's go to S3. Wow, are you seeing the buckets are showing? The buckets are shown now. When I go to buckets, I'm able to list buckets. I can create buckets if I want. Create a bucket, right? I can do that now. But before, we did not have that access. And that's the power of IAM, giving you access to say. So you can be a cloud engineer and you are assigned to S3, right? That's all your job, to do everything you are doing in S3, monitor and track and deal with all the files that come into S3. You will not get access to any other place. They will give you only the permission, the authorization to access S3. Any other service you go to, it will not work. So this is what IAM does, right? If I come to IAM as this user, the same thing, no access. I will have no access. I will not be able to come and manipulate my resources. You see, are you seeing that? Access denied. Are you seeing that? So I will sign out and go back to, let's talk about the next so I'll go to my root user. So this will come out. Come on, where are you? Okay. All right, let's go to IAM. So we just looked at users, how we were able to assign a policy to users, right? So let's come to groups. Let's hit groups. Right now, there are no groups. Let's create a group. For groups, it makes it easy, right? Let's give it a name. Dev group. So now this dev user, let's add it to that dev group. Huh? And let's add this. Let's add that. Right? So this is where we create policies that are group based. So that any user, if tomorrow I decide to add this user to this group, he will inherit all the policies that we have added to this group. So I won't need to be logging in, logging out. Oh, I didn't put this permission for this guy. Oh, go back again, come out. So all those who, the team that will manage S3 bucket, all of them will create a group and put all the permissions required and dump all those users in that group. Right? So this, I don't want to create a user now. I don't want to create user. And then you give them access that you want. You select all the permissions. If you look at these permissions, you see that you have AWS managed, right? And you see customer managed. Customer managed means the ones you created yourself. AWS managed means the ones AWS has by default. And those ones, they will do all the updates, they will do everything for you. But the customer own, you have to do it yourself. You have to come back and do it yourself, by yourself. So sometimes you'll be required to create your fine-grained policies, and like if I go to create policy now, and do certain things. I don't want this person to be able to, I want this person to have access to all S3, but to be able to create EC2 instance, not to be able to delete EC2 instance and all those stuff. So you now start adding, you select a service, maybe let's say EC2 or whatever, and that's how you continue. If I take EC2 and then we give, this is a fine-grained access now. We'll come to the access level, right? Whatever I want here, if I want the person to be able to describe a lot of things on S3, on EC2, I can select that. I can select list all actions. So the person is able to do all the listing, right? Listing means you are just able to see what's there. Read, right? I can select all read. But when it comes to like writing, that is affecting stuff that is in the file, I might decide not to give the person permissions here. So the person might not be able to, for example, delete stuff. Are you saying that? So the person might not be able to append or add stuff or create stuff. So I might decide to allow this permission like that. So you view EC2, when you read it, you can see what's there. When you're not able to create anything, you're not able to delete anything and all that, right? So this is how you assign fine-grained permissions to a particular user or a particular group, right? You can do it yourself. And when you finish, you are done with it, you give it a name, it will now become a customer managed policy, like what you are seeing here, right? But if you just pick the AWS default one, it will be AWS managed. So policies give you the right, they give you authorization. They help you to have the power to do something according to what the policy says. So if a policy gives you full rights to S3, then you have full rights. You are authorized. Like the bank manager, you can walk into the strong room 100 times a day as long as you're the bank manager. Nobody will stop you. But not every staff of the bank can go access the strong room anytime they want. You understand? So that's what, because the bank manager has root or administrative access. He can go inside anytime, check anything he wants to check. But a normal, maybe a customer service, a bank staff cannot just go to the strong room because I'm a bank staff. You can't. You are authenticated. Yes, we accept you are a bank staff. That's why you are in this place. That's why you have an ID card. But you have no authorization to go into the strong room. You are not permitted. That is what policies help to do. They help to permit. So I'm just teaching you all this back. If you understand the technology behind it, if you understand the philosophy, right, how things work, then it will no longer be a big thing for you. You can do and undo. You can understand when things fail. Oh, it looks like I don't have the permission. You come back to IAM. Many times the error will tell you the permission you need to create. And you just note that error and come back and look for that particular permission and you solved it. So understanding users are people who gain authentication access. Roles are a group of users put together, and then you assign permissions with policies to them so that they can have authorization to do certain things according to the confines of their roles. Policies are the actual do's and don'ts that your power. It's just like the Constitution of Nigeria now. The president has almost absolute authority. It's almost like the root user in Nigeria. That's how. In the state, the governor has root user access in that sense. But you as a commissioner or a minister, you don't have root access. You cannot approve certain things. You can't walk up to CBN and say, give me $1 billion. But the president can call the CBN governor and say, I need $1 billion before tomorrow, you will lose your job. The CBN governor has no choice. He will bring it. You see, both of them are public officers. The Minister of Finance or the Minister of Labor. But one has root access. One has all permissions. The other one does not have. So it is very important for you to understand this. Let's just do one more thing before we go today. I want us to look at why am I'm logged in with root. Great. So I want us to, let's come to the dashboard. I want us to also check how to create MFA, multi-factor authorization. All you just need to do is, you have to do it as an administrator or as a root user. You cannot do it as a regular root user. Only the root user will do it for you. So maybe when they create the user account, they will set up all this stuff and ask you to, and you will have access to them. All you need to do is to click Add MFA. And then we now assign MFA. For me, I will not use a hardware device because I don't have one. So I have Google Authenticator. So you just select your Authenticator app, and then the rest is history. You put your name, which will be maybe any name that you want to give this device. I can say Google, Google Auth, for example, right?
Hey.
When you click that, right, and you hit next, right, it will now take you to a place where you need to take your phone and open your Google Authenticator app, right? And then you go to where you have your camera there, and then you scan this image, and it will synchronize this account, right, to your Google Authenticator. It will pull out the first code and ask you to enter it, and then you wait for it to cycle out and pull out a second code and enter that one there, and that's it. Once you hit add, anytime you log into, you want to log in here, after entering your password, and it gives you an extra authentication level of security. So when you add your password, you add all those things. The way I do when I log in, it will now prompt you to enter your MFA, just similar to what you do when you do bank with our token, right? And then you set you enter your PIN, your one-time password, then it will give you access into your account. So that's how to MFA to set up MFA authorization or MFA authentication, right? So access keys. This one has to do with your command line interface. Maybe we'll set up another time because of the time. We'll set up another day where we'll install AWS CLI on our. Let me carry this thing out. Let me see if I can carry this. Okay, where we install AWS CLI on our on our terminal. This one is my VS Code. Let's just clear. I've already put AWS CLI here. So if I do AWS configure, right, it should pull my access key and secret access key for me because I've already done that already. That's why you're seeing it like this. If I want to change to this new dev user now, then I will set up an access key and secret access key for dev user, and I will now enter that one here. Press enter, it will ask me for secret access key. I'll put the dev user on there too, and then that will be it. I would have changed command from me to the new user, the new dev user. So we will look at that one subsequent day, how to set AWS CLI. Do a lot to read AWS documentation. You will learn a lot from there, because even when we set up AWS CLI, you still rely on the documentation. You come back to AWS documentation to get that done. All right, so I actually have another meeting by 9, but I'll just give like 10 minutes for us to have questions and discuss about this. No questions? Okay, I can see somebody raised. Is there anybody there whose hand is up?
Yeah, hello. My hand is up. I don't know if you can see it.
Mr. Float, right?
Yes, that's me.
Right.
I want to ask a question. So I thank you for your lecture, though. I appreciate it so much. I've learned a lot today. To my question, I realized when you created the IME access account, all right, and you entered the console, when you are trying to access the service, the IME service, IAM service, yeah. When you're trying to access that service in the console, you were asked to, you were denied permission. So I'm wondering what's the difference between the service and then the account you created at the beginning of the service. When you were trying to log in, the IAM access you created there, what's the difference between that and then the service you have in the console?
Okay, so as beginners, it's important to try and use tech terms, cloud terms. So what I did was I created a user. First, I am the root user. So this is you cannot create a user from, a second user cannot create a user out of this account. Only the root user can do that creation. So when I created that user called new dev user, I tried to log in, and because I didn't assign a password at that time, so I couldn't access the console. So I went back to my root user account and went back to set a password, right? That was why I was now able to log in, right? So by the time I did that, you remember that I came here to manage console access. and I dictated, okay, this I was going to put this password and all those stuff. So we were now able to log in, right? So when we logged in, you discovered that the only permission we had, let's come to permissions, was IAM user change password. That was the only permission. We didn't have any other permission. So when we went to EC2, we could not access, no authorization. We went to S3, no authorization. So I had to come back to my root account and went to this very dev user account and included S3 access authorization. And then when we went back to this dev, we logged in back as dev user, we saw that we could not access EC2. We couldn't access EC2, but we could access S3. We could, list all the buckets there. So that's just the basic technology, how the thing works. So if I wanted to make this user, to give this user complete access to almost everything, all I needed to do is to add permissions, and I'll give the person, I'll attach it directly. I'll give administrator access. Once I give administrator access, they will have permission to, it's like a root user, but you cannot delete the root user. That'll be the difference. So, but I'm not giving that, you won't give that, right? Maybe the cloud administrator will be the one that will have this access. So he can create users and do and undo, but he will not still have absolute power like the root user. I hope you understand.
Yeah, I get all of that. I was trying to clarify this. The IAM user account, is it different from the IAM like service in the console?
This is IAM service.
Meaning, even if you create an IAM user, okay, so you need permissions to be able to even access this site, even though you've created an IAM user, right?
That user cannot come here and do anything. Can only just see. You only have read access to all the services. The new user can have read access, can go to S3, see but you can't come here and click user and say add user. You can't do that. Only the root user can do that. Except I come here and I select this particular user and I add, I click it, right? And I add that permission to have access to IAM, to be able to utilize IAM. Then when that guy logs in, he will now be able to do what I'm doing.
Okay.
That is what we call authorization. Authentication is in the login stage when you log in. And when, for example, I'm authenticated to see EC2, right? I can see EC2. I can go to VPC. I can go to all these ones as a user without permission. I am authorized, right? But I can't do any other thing. I'm not I'm authenticated, but I'm not authorized to see what is here or to create, launch an instance. I'm only just authenticated to have access to the place. So there's a difference between authentication and authorization. Authentication is like your ID card giving you access into a place. Authorization is the authority you have to do stuff in that place.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
All right, any other person?
Hello, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
I just want to ask a question. When you were creating the new user, how come you didn't attach them to the group, or does it really matter, or does it matter?
I didn't add them to the group. No, I was doing it in phases. The first thing we did was we created a user, and we saw how it was when you create a user. Authentication, right? We looked at authentication. Authentication ends in creating a user, right? and what the user can see physically. That's authentication. You give the person the password and the person can log into this account, the console. That's authentication. So what I did was just to show you, I went here and I created add user and I created a user. That user automatically will have the authentication details to log into AWS console under this account, right?
Yeah.
Every user you create with this account will have this number. So that's what authentication does. But then, having done that, right, I came back to say, I came back now to say, okay, I have dealt with users. A user, you create it, you create a user and you pass their details to them and they log in, right? So let's look at groups. What is the benefit of groups? So I now said, I can create, what if you have a team of 20 developers and they all need access and they are all working on a code, you know? How will you assign permissions? Are you going to be assigning permission one after the other to each user? It will be cumbersome. So the best thing to do there is to create a group. And after creating all the users, you create a group and move all into that group. Any policy you attach to that group applies to all the users in that group. If a user ceases to be a member of that group, has resigned, you just remove that user from that group and delete the user, right? Who's okay. Francis?
Okay. Another question, please. Follow-up question.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Hello, Vie.
Go ahead.
Okay. Another question. When you I realized that when you were, creating the users and